Good evening, everyone. This is Wesley Morgan coming to you tonight on one of our weekly broadcasts on Operation Freedom, and we're going to discuss some issues related to our Senate campaign for United States Senate against Mitch McConnell. We're going to do several things tonight. We're going to attempt to do them. I have my wife sitting over here, and she's co-piloting tonight. It's going to help me do a lot of screen sharing, so I can show you guys some of the things when I talk about a topic that I can literally bring it up and show it to you, so you will be looking at and seeing what it is that I'm talking about. But right from the start, I'll tell you about what I did, what happened last week, and what's coming up next week, on our schedule. And then we're going to go in and talk about a lot of people keep asking, well, what are you going to do, Wesley, if you become a United States Senator? I think I've answered that question on several occasions, but I have some people saying that I have not answered that question adequately. So I'm going to make an attempt tonight to make sure that my stance on things and what I'm going to do when I become your next United States Senator, so that you have a good idea of what it is that you would be sending me to Washington to do, and so we'll go over that, and then we're going to look at an article that was posted in the Courier Journal that tried to pretend that I was a Democrat, and I've never been a Democrat in my life. I'm 69 years old, born in 1950, been a Republican every day of my life. I spent the first 18 years, of course, I couldn't vote. And then when I became 18, I voted for Richard Nixon for President of the United States in 1968. And I've spent my time since then going to every primary election and every general election and voting Republican. I don't agree with the policies or the beliefs of the Democrat Party. I could never be a Democrat. That doesn't mean that I'm going to support a Republican that is crooked. I am not going to do that. I'm not going to support a Republican that I know that is corrupt, that has done things. And basically what we're talking about there is that Deanna Frazier, who I was running against when I was trying to be reelected for state representative in District 81, and my fight with her and how she was recruited by Jeff Hoover, and I refused to vote for her. I did. I didn't vote for the Democrat, but I did refuse to vote for her. And I won't vote for her. I'll never vote for her because I think she's corrupt. But anyway, we'll start off tonight by going over what I did this past week on March the 5th, last Thursday. I went to the Harrison County GOP and made my presentation to the members of the Harrison County Executive Committee, Harrison County GOP Executive Committee, and got a terrific response out of those people. I believe that practically everyone, there might have been one or two that did not come up to me and say that they're for us and they're going to help this campaign, and I was I was really pleased with the reception that I got. I did have State Representative Mark Hart was there, but Mark Hart and I became state representatives at the same time in January of 2017, and we became instant friends, and we've been friends ever since then. It doesn't mean he's going to openly support someone, but Mark is a good friend of mine. So that was what happened this past week. We didn't really have much of a full schedule. We have so many counties that will not allow us to come and speak, and it's pitiful. The blocks that the Republican Party of Kentucky, they don't supposed to do that. They're supposed to be they're not supposed to be partial to anyone in a primary election. It's supposed to be everyone's supposed to get to present their case, including incumbents. And they get to present their case of why they should be reelected. And the new people who have filed to run for office, they're supposed to present their case of why they should be elected. But when we have a situation where the party is being biased against members that's running in the primary against McConnell, it's really not right, because basically what they're doing is disenfranchising you as a Republican voter. And they don't have, in my personal opinion, they don't have that. I think you have the absolute right to hear all sides of the issues from whatever candidates it's running. And if you choose to not want to vote for that candidate, that's perfectly fine. That's your prerogative. But that doesn't mean that they should be able to censor candidates so that you cannot make that decision. All we're looking for is a fair shake, because we have done extensive research on Mitch McConnell's voting record. And as I've been over this many, many times, it's atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. And when people learn, when they really see and learn what McConnell has done since he's been our United States Senator, it automatically turns them from him just almost instantaneous. I have had some people who I've tried to tell them about Mitch McConnell's record, and they said they don't care. They're voting for him anyway. And I said, well, that's your prerogative. That's what you decide that you're going to do. Then that's it. That's strictly up to you. I personally cannot believe that someone would vote for a candidate that they know who has been undermining their constitutional rights. And that's a bothersome thing, but people have the right to do whatever they want to do. But hi, Linda, I see that you're on the broadcast. Coming up this coming week, tomorrow night, I'm going to be at the Boone County GOP. Their meeting is going to be in Union. I'm going to be speaking to the Boone County GOP tomorrow night. On Thursday, March the 12th, I'm going to be speaking at the Simpson County Lincoln Day dinner. That's in Franklin, which is in Simpson County, which, as you all know, is south of Bowling Green. Then on Saturday, I'm going to be speaking at the Bullitt County GOP Lincoln Day dinner. And I look forward to speaking to both Simpson County and Bullitt County. We have some really, really good supporters out in those two counties, and they've made an effort to see that I get to come and speak, and which is absolutely a great thing, and allows the members of the Republican Party of Bullitt County and Simpson County to at least hear what we have to say, and then after that they can make their mind up whatever they want to do. But that's what we're going to be doing tonight, and that's our what we have done the past week and what's coming up. And now I want to talk about. I also learned, I believe it was yesterday, I learned that the Republican Party of Kentucky has a rule that is like, if I supply the materials to them, that they are obligated under the rules of the Republican Party of Kentucky to hand our material out when they're doing door knocking during a primary. So tomorrow I'm going to order a substantial amount of handout material, and then we're going to provide it to the regional people that represent the Republican Party of Kentucky, so that they can hand out our information, our political information, to people as they're knocking on the door. So thank goodness for that. And I hope that the party honors their rules, but with everything that's been going on, I don't know whether they will or won't. We also have a person by the name of Trevor Lyman who helped run Rand Paul's campaign back a few years ago. He's came on board. He's in New Hampshire, and he's helping their campaign now. And already I can tell a lot of differences, things that's going on with their Facebook pages and their web page and all that stuff. And he's revamping every bit of that. He's getting ready to do some money bombs and trying to get to raise some cash so that it helps us in the next 2.5 months in this campaign to restore liberty to Kentucky and to remove a person who, if you look at his voting record, is certainly not in any stretch of the imagination a constitutionalist for sure. And he's done everything he can do to undermine our constitutional rights, and I just don't believe that should be done. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start let's talk about the issues that my beliefs, what I believe in, and what I intend on doing when I become your United States Senator. Uh, let's start with Lindsay. If you want to bring it up, let's see. I'll bring it up. My first. I hope you guys like what we're trying to do, but I'm I'm attempting to bring in all this information so that when I'm sitting here and talking to you and telling you things that's going on, you're not just sitting there listening at it. You can actually see it for yourself, and you'll see how valuable this gets the more we come. Now, I'll be honest. This StreamYard program that we're using is not not a simple thing to do, and I have been working with that, and thank goodness for my wife. She knows a whole lot more about social media and stuff than I do, but she's been helping me, and I'll leave it up to her to work it out because I really a lot of this stuff is beyond me, but she can work it out. Basically, what we're going to talk about tonight is the first part is what I believe in. Well, I believe that, and up on the screen, I believe in faith and family and country. And we as Americans should be, number one, we should, related to faith, we should be free to worship Jesus Christ without persecution. You know, for the last few years, our government has been trying to push God out of our country and out of our government. And I know that the government does not have a right under the First Amendment to establish religion, and we don't want a religion established. But we also know that this country was based upon, Judeo principles and the worship of Jesus Christ and God Almighty and the Holy Bible, and that was what our country was built on, and you can't deny that. And now they're trying to strike and move out everything that has anything to do with religion, and that's absolutely not intended, because the First Amendment says that the right of the Congress shall not establish a religion, but it shall not do anything to obstruct the worship of religion. So they don't have any legal right under the Constitution to remove those things, like the Ten Commandments at the State House, if that's what we really want to do. And the 10th Amendment actually prohibits the federal government from doing anything that's not enumerated in the Constitution, and that's certainly not enumerated in the Constitution. That we should be free to protect the life of the unborn and express our view that abortion is morally wrong. You know, the things that's going on now, I mean, they're now trying to take and literally kill babies after they're born. Now, that's murder any way, any shape, form, or fashion that you can. There's no other reason. I mean, no other conclusion you can come up with other than it's absolute murder. And I just don't believe abortion should be something that we're doing, especially the way that we manufacture it later. Let's talk about abortion. Mitch McConnell, he's never once not defunded Planned Parenthood, and him, the Senate Majority Leader. Not one time has he ever done that. And if you go to on the YouTube and you look up Rand Paul, where he spoke to the Faith Forum in D.C. Just very recently, he said that leadership in the Senate really was disingenuous about acting like they wanted to stop abortion, because they give lip service to it, but they really don't do anything to stop it, and that's really bad. Because I know, as a state representative, when I first got sworn in January of 2017, that we made an honest effort to put some restrictions, as many restrictions as we could get passed on abortion, and we were successful in doing that. And if we can do that in the General Assembly of the state of Kentucky, there's no reason why Mitch McConnell, being the Senate Majority Leader, could not do that. So I'll tell you, number one, is that I believe in Jesus Christ. Some people want to know what I believe in and what I'm going to do. I believe that religion should be back in school. I believe that we should put the Bible back in school, that the missionaries should be allowed to come back around and teach Bible stories or tell Bible stories to the kids the way they did when I was going to grade school. And I think it makes you a better-rounded person when you see what God wants you to do. And I believe that you should not have an abortion. I just believe that's what it is, unless unless it has something to do with the life of the mother or something like that, then I would be totally against the abortion issue. Next is that I think you should be free to educate your children without government indoctrination. I believe that the I believe that the Department of Education should be abolished. It never should have been put in place. It should be abolished. The federal government has no legitimate right or interest in being involved in the education of our kids across this country. They should get out of education altogether. The federal government has no need to be in it. That can be run from the state, and more to me, I'm more for it being run on the local level, not even on the state level, but maybe some funding from the state. But as far as making the decisions on what we teach, I think that we should get back to that. And I remember, we have kids right now that cannot make change. And when I was in the third grade, they made us memorize the multiplication tables. They don't do that anymore. They let them use calculators, and therefore they have no sense of their mind working and can make those numbers work. Also, when I was in the seventh grade, they taught us Kentucky history. That was I loved that class. That was something else when we talked about how Daniel Boone come and explored Kentucky and how it was formed and a lot of history about Kentucky. And that was just an amazing class that I had, and I loved it better than anything. I think it was in the eighth grade that we had that. No, it was the seventh, excuse me. And so we were taught Kentucky history. We also were taught civics. We need our kids to be taught again about how our government works. And we have a lot of people who just do not understand the difference between a United States senator and a state senator. A member of the House of Representatives of Congress of the United States and a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives. They don't understand the difference in that. They don't understand the tier of city, county, state, and federal governments. People need to know that if they're being governed by a government, then they need to know how that government operates. And we need to get back there. And we need a simple thing like home economics. We need to start teaching their home economics again in their school system. I mean, what happened to that? Why was that taken out? That gave you a good basis of, some kids can't even fry an egg. They're not even self-sufficient anymore. They always have to depend on someone else to provide even their meals for them when they don't even know how to cook, how to do anything that that they should do to take care of themselves during their lifetime. That's ridiculous. The other thing is when I was in the eighth grade, we had United States history, American history. And we learned all about the founding of our country and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and how we had an Articles of Confederation before that we had the United States Constitution, and how that we come about being a country and what's happened to us since we formed the country. And, who would not want to know that? And you learn that when you were a kid. And they don't want you to know it because they don't want you to be patriotic. There is an absolute movement to do away with the sovereignty of the United States and to really let the United Nations take over control of every government in the world. I am not for that. I believe in the United States of America, and I believe in its sovereignty, and I believe that the best bet is for countries to remain their own sovereign nation. And who wants to have everything the same? I was talking about this not too long ago on a broadcast where back when we went to when I was just I think 12 years old when we went to Florida, and how that during that traveling to Florida, that was before Interstate 75, and you would take and go through different parts of Kentucky and Tennessee and Georgia and then into Florida, and you would see all these places that had different ways that they would live. And that's the first time I ever heard about grits in Georgia when we'd stop at a restaurant that was most everything was mom and pop back then. Now you get on Interstate 75 and head to Florida. What do you see? Every exit's got a McDonald's and a Wendy's. Every exit. It's the same thing over and over and over. A few years ago, I think it was 2008, we were lucky to take a vacation to Italy. And when we were in Rome, they had a McDonald's. Well, I mean, who wants to go around the world and see the same thing? You really want to, part of vacation and going to places like Italy or Germany or England or wherever is learning about those people and their traditions and how they lived and the uniqueness of them. That's something that we miss out on when we make everything so homogenous that it's all the same and nothing's different. Then it's boring. It just becomes boring. And I like the differences in people. I don't want everybody to be the same. I want everyone to be their own person and to have different traditions that they grew up following. Let's see. Next is free to protect your family from all threats without fear of being imprisoned for possessing a firearm. We're definitely, absolutely in a fight to try to prevent them from outlawing or to overturning the Second Amendment of the Constitution that allows you to possess a firearm without, it's your constitutional right. The Second Amendment of the Constitution says the right of people to bear arms should not be infringed. I don't know how that gets misinterpreted. Based on the Constitution, I don't think they have a right to put any restriction whatsoever on it. Now, I do believe that really the way we should do gun control is that there should be a law that says that if you use a firearm during the commission of a felony, that you get 10 years in prison or let's say 5 years in prison. If you go to prison for 5 years, you don't pass go, and you don't collect $200. You go straight to prison for 5 years because you used a firearm during the commission of a felony. That's the way that gun control should be handled, not taking law-abiding citizens' right to possess a firearm from them. You should be free to enjoy the fruits of your labor without being taxed to death. I will stand up against anyone in Washington to try to abolish the Internal Revenue Service. That is an atrocity against human liberty. That you should never be in a position that you would have to report your financial dealings to the government, whether it's the state government, the federal government, or county or city. I mean, just recently they tried to pass House Bill 475 in the General Assembly just a couple of weeks ago. It failed, thank God, where they were trying to put on the ballot for this November a constitutional amendment that would allow local governments to assess a sales tax. I don't know about the rest of you, but we're taxed to death. And we're tired of paying every time we turn around. It's taxes on top of taxes. And there is a Supreme Court ruling. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a Supreme Court ruling that they also have to tax a tax. So if the city puts a tax on or a county puts a tax on something, and then the sales tax applies to it, that 6% goes to whatever the cost of that product was, plus the taxes that were added to it before the sales tax got there. So you're being taxed on tax. And that's unbelievable, but that's the way it is. And all this has been slipped in and slipped on us, and they're taking everything that we're working, and they're keeping us all in poverty. And God forbid, really, let's take a family of four, a man and a woman, and they're both working. They both have jobs 5 days, 6 days a week, and they're out there working and trying to make 2 car payments and a house payment, and they're trying to put clothes on their kids' back and put food on the table, and God forbid, they're trying to save a little bit to send that kid to college, and they're not winning. They're losing ground. And I will tell you that I will fight for you all the way. The number one thing, though, for people who say they don't know what I stand for or what I'm going to do, and the number one thing is I'm going to protect your constitutional rights. I'm going to see that nothing that is not constitutional goes through the United States Congress. I will object, and I will hang up the whole Senate before that I will allow something to become law that does not meet the muster of the Constitution of the United States. We should be free to obtain affordable health care. I am absolutely for getting the governments out of the business of health care. And I believe that that should be done by the free market, and you should be allowed. I don't even know where they got the constitutional right to do this, to prevent you from crossing state lines and getting your health insurance. Well, that's, you know what that is. That's a rigging. That's where they rig it for those very few providers of health insurance in the state, so that they can make all that money off of you, and so they can donate heavily to that candidate or to those people that's in office that's making those laws. That's how it's working. That's what they're doing to you. Well, let's see. Next thing is free to choose your representatives without them being handpicked by party elites. I don't want people selecting who is going to run for office by party officials, by people who are trying to censor candidates like myself. I don't want the party elites telling us who we can vote for and who we can't vote for. It should be an open. If you're a Republican, you should be able to run in the primary openly, and then if you win, you go on to face the Democrat or the Libertarian in the general election. But you should have the right to do that. And I know that the parties, not the Democrat Party's absolutely done it. There's no doubt the Republican Party's did it. They're stacking the deck against people that's trying to run and become, win an office to go in and try to help and do what's right for the people, and not for a small group of people who are getting rich and living the life of luxury off of us who get out there and work every day. You should be free to be treated fairly and prosper in peace and safety. You know, that's the main thing that the Constitution provides. The federal government's got to do is provide for the common defense. And I would say that's the primary goal of the state, would be to provide, the state police and a judicial system to make sure that you can prosper in peace and safety. And I think everybody had seen all of the stuff that went on during the 2016 election when they were taking and hitting that lady that was trying to get into that rally with eggs, and they was beating those people up on the streets and stuff. And the city officials were making the police stand down and not even assist those people, and those people being beat up and being abused. And I thought that was horrible. But I believe you should be treated fairly, and you should be able to prosper in peace and safety. Free to have a news media that does not promote untruths through propaganda. Well, if y'all watched me at all over the last, it's been going on since May 16th, I think, when I first filed with the Federal Election Commission. You know that I have been exposing McConnell, how he and Harry Reid in 2012 slipped into the 2013 National Defense Authorization Act, a repeal of the Smith-Mont Act. And a repeal of that act, because that act was passed in 1948, called the Smith-Mont Act. And it was passed to prevent propaganda, government propaganda, from being used in the news media in the United States and America. And Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid repealed that law. Where do you think fake news came from? Why do you think that the Federal Communications Commission hasn't been able to revoke MSNBC or CNN's license as news media? Because it's legal to put propaganda in the news media because of Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid. Now, I would absolutely pass that law, put it back into place. I would be for that 150,000% to reestablish the Smith-Mont Act. Also, I pointed out when I'm speaking how in December of 2016, right after President Trump was elected, how that Mitch McConnell personally slipped into the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act, House Bill 5181, which was a bill that was co-sponsored by Ted Lieu, one of the most liberal congresspeople from California that there is. And that bill, calling House Bill 5181, countering foreign I believe it's Counter Foreign Information, Disinformation and Propaganda Act. And what that did is it created a $160 million slush fund to be used by the Broadcasting Board of Governors to censor conservative content in social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Why did he do that? I'll tell you why he did it, because it's deep state. He's trying to undermine the sovereignty of the United States. There's no other answer for it. No other answer why a United States senator from Kentucky would do such a thing. There's no other answer. So people who support him can pretend. That's all they're doing is pretending, because the truth's there. All you got to do is look at it. The truth is there. Let's see. What I will fight for in the United States Senate. I will fight to put God back in America, and especially in our schools. I truly believe, like I said before, that God should be put back in our schools so that we can start teaching some morals to our kids again, to where they're not out just lost. They're lost. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. All this humanism, it don't work. You have to have a relationship with God and Jesus Christ before that you can really start understanding about life. And as you get older, I know that from personal experience. As you get older, you know that you have to come to grips with your maker, because at some point you're going to be standing before your God, and you're going to explain what you did here on earth. So we really need to teach our kids morals. And it's a shame, because a lot of us are having to take our kids and put them in homeschooling in order for them to get that kind of education. And we still have to pay our property tax and stuff like that to fund the public education. But public education is failing us all over. There's no doubt it's failing us as citizens of this country. And we need rid of that or we need it to be not rid of the public education, but for it to be put back on the course that it used to be on 50, 60 years ago, when they were teaching all these great things that I talked about before, math and American history and Kentucky history and all that stuff, and home economics. What happened to vocational schools? Not everybody wants to be a lawyer or an accountant or whatever. Some people want to be an auto mechanic. I mean, that's just what they want to do, or they want to be a plumber, or they want to be an electrician or something. What happened to that? When I went to high school, we had a vocational school. What happened to it? It just disappeared. We should be. I will fight to enforce the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. As I told you before, that's the number one thing I will do for you when I become your United States Senator. I will make sure that they do not violate your constitutional rights. I will stand up from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to protect your constitutional rights. We should make Congress obey its own laws and their oath of office. I truly believe that we should have a law that if you violate your oath of office, you should be removed from that office. We've had too much shenanigans going on with our public officials. You all know it's the truth. You may look the other way and act like it's not happening, but it's happening. There's no question it is. So, to pass laws and then exempt themselves from it, think about that. Think about making a law like Obamacare and then exempting themselves from it. How could anything affect you any more than that? That people are making laws to make you follow those laws, but they don't have to follow them. That is pathetic. That's enough to remove most of every person who's a congressman or a senator right this moment. People should be voting against every single one of them just on that issue alone. Just on that. You should be. It should be secure. I believe that I would fight to secure our borders now and to stop people from unlawfully entering our country. Institute a 10-year moratorium on immigration into the United States. Now, some people think that's extreme, a 10-year moratorium. We've got so many people in this country right now that doesn't belong here, that's not citizens. I think that we need to stop immediately bringing people in. Unless we have a need, some kind of a great need, and we can bring that person in to help us in some kind of physics or something like that. But I believe there should be a 10-year moratorium that we don't bring anybody in until we get our immigration system lined out. I think that I would fight for you in the United States Senate to make any payments to non-citizens from the United States government or any state illegal. I just don't think our government should be giving money to anyone who's not a citizen. I'm really against giving it to people who are citizens. I think people should work for a living, and people shouldn't try to live off of other people's money. If you should work. You should work, and if you can't work, I understand. If we have somebody who, that's disabled or something who can't work, I'm all for helping provide for them. But if you're an able-bodied person, you should be working. Even if you have kids, we should form daycare centers for people low-income people who have kids where they can participate and take care of other people's children in state-sponsored daycare centers, so that those people can go to work, and it all works out. And then pay those people that's running those daycare centers, pay them to take care of them. We should make entitled payments to foreign governments illegal and stop providing free services to other countries. We should require they pay their fair share. Foreign aid is nothing more than contributions to these people who are making these laws. It's just circling around and coming back into the country. That's all that's going on. There's a small percentage of that money that you're sending out for foreign aid, very small. That's actually going to the places that they're providing that foreign aid to. Pass a constitutional amendment to require term limits for Congress and make any congressional leadership position limited to one term. We don't need a person who's been the Speaker of the House for 50 years. We don't need a Senate Majority Leader 12, 18, 24 years. We one term, and they would have to give up that leadership position, so that it's always turning over. It's always turning over, just like water. If you don't turn water over, it stales. It skunks. It's the same thing with everything else. You've got to keep constant turnover going to make sure that the people who are going up there representing you are representing you and not representing themselves. And they are definitely representing themselves. There's no question about that. Can't rub it in. Let's see here. Abolish the Internal Revenue Service. I've talked about that, and prohibit direct taxation of United States citizens. Now, we have to have money to operate our government, and I understand that, and we have to have a lot of money to provide the kind of defense that we need and require. But direct taxation of the American people, that should never happen. We can get around that very easily, but that's not what it's really truly about. The direct taxation is to control you individually. That's what it's for. You will, if you have so many kids, you get these so many exemptions. If you work, there's all kinds of things about if you buy a house and pay interest on it, you get to deduct the interest. It's just things that they put in the tax laws to make you do things they want you to do, whatever it is. If they, they'll give you a solar energy credit. If you'll go buy solar things, they'll give you a credit. Well, that's to get you to buy the solar stuff. Maybe you don't even want it, but you'll do it if you're getting 30% tax break on it. I believe that we should advocate respect for our military or flag and law enforcement. People, I've never seen the attack upon our military people and our flag and our law enforcement people the way it has been in the last several years. If you do away with law enforcement, that is the only people between you and the heathens. And people talking about abolishing ICE and all that stuff. These people are crazy, absolutely crazy. They want to abolish ICE so that our borders can be completely overrun with people coming in here, MS-13 gangs and all that, and killing us in the streets. And what we're going to do? We're going to outlaw Richmond Police Department and the Kentucky State Police. It's just craziness that you have to have law enforcement, and it's changed so much in the last 30 years or so because, I don't even understand how these guys and girls even work in that job much anymore because they're always being put down or trying to be indicted or trying to be sued or something. I made the statement not long ago that I wouldn't carry a badge in today's environment under no circumstances because I believe you have a higher probability of going to prison or being stripped of everything you own by carrying a badge than you do if you were just a common citizen. I believe you should require mandatory drug screening, and I will fight for that before and during welfare or on government assistance. I just believe that we should not provide money to people who are using it to do things that's illegal. And I believe that they should, in order to draw money from us, the public, the people out there who are working, that you should be required not to partake in drugs and things like that. Because why should we provide you with money while you're laying, wiped out on some drug or something? So that's the things that I would fight for. I'd fight for your health care and to do away with all these taxes where they're killing you with to prevent illegals from coming into this country. I'm don't care to tell you, I'm a big supporter of President Trump, and I will do everything in my power to support the president on everything he does, as long as it's constitutional. Now, if he tries to do something that's not constitutional, then I'm going to have a problem with it. But as long as it's constitutional, I will do everything in my power to support the president, and I think he deserves it. I think that President Trump has done more for this country in the less than 3 years that he's been in than probably 3 or 4 of the previous presidents, and that includes Ronald Reagan. And I was a big Ronald Reagan fan and still am. I think we should pass laws to hold government officials and employees personally liable for their crimes and violation of a citizen's constitutional rights, if it was from intent or negligence. There should be no room for anyone who works for the government to violate your constitutional rights and just walk away from it. I think that's a bad situation, and I would say that people who do that they should be held personally liable. And if you hold them personally liable, it will not last very long. Believe me, they will make doggone sure they're not violating your constitutional rights. That's just like the governor of Virginia trying to pass a law to restrict you of your Second Amendment constitutional right. I believe he should be held personally responsible for that. If he signs a bill like that, then he's violated the oath of office because he blatantly violated his constitutional oath of office. If he signs a law to restrict you for something that says it shall not be infringed, I don't know how else you get there. But anyway, that's basically what I wanted to talk about as far as what I believe in and what I would do when I'm elected your next United States Senator. Now, I want to move on to an article that was written in the Courier Journal, and I'm ready for that. But the article in the Courier Journal, and stroll up. This is an article. Go. Does it have a date on it, Lindsay? I couldn't see at the top. I believe it does.
Yeah, May 23rd, 2018.
May 23rd, 2018. Let's then stroll up. Now, notice at the top, correction. This story has been updated to reflect Mitch McConnell's position. But it leaves out when I recanted the next day. State Representative C. Wesley Morgan, who lost to a primary challenger on Tuesday night, says his defeat was orchestrated by the Republican leaders in the state. It absolutely was. No question about it. Jeff Hoover, they recruited Deanna Fraser to run against me because if I would not help cover up Jeff Hoover's sexual assault on this young girl up in Frankfurt, I would not help cover that up. So they get all upset because I wouldn't go along with the party and protect Hoover, and so they go recruit Deanna Fraser to run against me for the House seat, and the Republican Party of Kentucky fully funds her campaign. And they had never done that in House District 81 before, only to get rid of me. That because I would not go along with the cover-up. In a fiery Facebook post, Morgan said he will support the Democrat candidate for his House seat in District 81 rather than his Republican opponent, and that he will be a thorn in the side of Republicans who support corrupt individuals. Yep, I sure will. I will be a thorn in the side of people who support corrupt individuals. There's no question I will do that. And I did say that I would, that night when I was so angry about what they had done to me, I did say that I would support the Democrat candidate that night. But they don't put in, even though they did the correction here a couple of days later, they don't put the next day when I posted that I was upset and angry because of what they did, but I could never support a Democrat. And in particular, this particular Democrat, which was the Eves girl, Morgan Eves, who ran for that seat on the Democrat ticket. She's the biggest liberal you ever saw in your life. There's no way in the world I could ever pull a lever for her. There's no question. But, if you really want to talk about who has supported Democrats, let's talk about how Mitch McConnell absolutely character assassinated Judge Roy Moore in Alabama. And his assault on Judge Moore is the absolute reason that Doug Jones is United States Senator from Alabama right now. And Doug Jones voted against the president during impeachment. So, that dog don't hunt. They're trying to put it on me, but that dog don't hunt. Let's see what else. And I agree about I absolutely won't support corrupt individuals. Tonight, the GOP lost a true conservative and patriot, he wrote, and I will no longer be associated with the Republican Party. Well, I did say that. Next day, I did recant that. He also said on Wednesday that he was considering changing his party registration. At least I know what they represent is truly what they believe in, he told the Courier-Journal. Yep, I did say that. And let me see if I can read it a little bit better over here. Let's see. Morgan was part of a wave of Republican victories over Democrat incumbents in 2016 that gave the party a majority in the House of Representatives for the first time in nearly a century. It had been 50 years since the Republicans held my seat, but because I wasn't going along with the leadership's corruption, they wanted me out. During his brief time in the House, was accused of trying to pass legislation that would have benefit his liquor store business. He also made headlines for alleging in January that members of the Republican leadership conspired to cover up sexual harassment claims. They did. Everybody knows it's true. We're going to do this. What we're doing here related to this issue, we're going to do this on all these issues that they brought up. This self-serving liquor bill stuff, he's not paying property tax on house bills and all that. So we're going to make a video on every one of those. We're going to use this platform. We're going to do it exactly the way we're doing this tonight, and we're going to post them. It's not necessarily going to be on a Sunday night show, but we're going to do it. We may film it on Wednesday or Thursday or Monday or whatever, and then we're going to post those on there, and then we will notify people that it's been posted, and you'll be able to see it. Let's see. It wasn't Morgan is rebellious acts like the latter that turned his own party against him. I wasn't a go along to get along. I can assure you right now that if I had went along with the leadership and what they wanted, I would have never had an opponent in the primary and would have had their blessing, he said. I'm not made like that. I'm not someone's gopher. I'm a free thinker. And I am a free thinker. And I will stand for my constituents and the people of my district, of my state, of my country. I will stand for them. And I will not go along with corrupt politicians. I'm not going to do it. And I'll say it again. I said it then. Now, I did say the next day, I did recant that I would never support a Democrat. I did say that. And I went a little bit too far, and I apologize for the being angry about it. But I'll explain to you right now why that was angry. Let's bring up the next.
I scrolled it up already. Or you want to?
My response. Now, somebody asked, because the Republican Party, I guess, or Courier Journal, someone, they posted this previous thing that we just talked about, the Courier Journal article. They posted it, so it's the number one thing. If you type in C. Wesley Morgan at that time, it was the number one thing that came up was Wesley Morgan is a Democrat. I've never been a Democrat in my life. And here's what I said on January the 1st. I said, here's my response to the Louisville Courier Journal's dishonest post in Fast Check C. Wesley Morgan. First, the Louisville Courier Journal is nothing but a liberal rag, and that is absolutely true, and have consistently and intentionally misrepresented my motives, intentions, and actions since I got involved in politics in Kentucky. Let me explain. It is true, after I lost my reelection for Kentucky State Representative by 353 votes, I was angry. I did say in a Facebook post on the night of the election, on May the 22nd, 2018, I was going to support Deanna Fraser, Democrat opponent. But the next day after the election, in another Facebook post, which the Courier Journal conveniently leaves out of their posting, that I recanted, that I had said and stated that I could never support a Democrat or a liberal. In fact, I never voted for Miss Fraser or her opponent. My family and I wrote in my name on the ballot. I was angry because I had won House District 81 in 2016 from the Democrats. The seat had been held by them for the previous 50 years. I had absolutely no help from the Republican Party of Kentucky or the Republican leadership in the Kentucky House. Speaker Hoover did not want me to win. I believe it was because I am a true constitutional conservative and I refused to allow him to vote me. I was sworn in on January the 2nd, 2017. By January the 11th of 2017, 9 days, there were Courier Journal articles, newspaper articles coming out saying I had filed self-serving liquor bills and other things. While this was going on, Jeff Hoover was advising me not to comment to the news media and not to defend myself. He told me the controversy would blow over. It was common against conservatives. Then later, I was told by Daisy Alivio, the House Communications Director, that it was Hoover who was giving that information to the media. Then Hoover was caught sexually harassing a young lady who worked for Alivo. I was told to go along with the cover-up of Hoover's sexual harassment. I refused and called him out. As a result of my action, he was forced to resign as Speaker of the House. Because I did that, Hoover got a friend of his wife, Deanna Fraser, to run against me, and the Republican Party of Kentucky fully funded Fraser's campaign against me. And all this time, the Republican Party did not even once call out Hoover for his illegal acts. So yes, I was angry. Later, Hoover and Fraser sent me a picture, the two of them laughing at me and taunting me. I admit, I wish I had not shown my anger, but I never dreamed the Republican Party would do such a thing. I have been a constitutional conservative Republican all my life, going to the polls every primary and every general election to vote Republican, but I saw a side of the Republican Party that I did not like. However, any day of the week, any day, they are better than the Democrats. And I'll show you the text that Fraser and Hoover sent me. Now look at this. Can you make that a little bigger, honey?
It's good. Mommy.
Can you believe this? They've taunted me, and ain't no wonder I got mad. It's just, you have no idea what I went through. These people are horrible, absolute horrible. And this is what they did. And I don't think there's a person listening to this show tonight that would not have felt the same way I did. It's pathetic. It's pathetic that people, grown people, and they did that to taunt me, to show me that they ousted me because that I would not cover up Jeff Hoover's sexual harassment. And that's the truth of the story. And like I said, I'm going to do every single one of these allegedly self-serving liquor bills, allegedly not paying property tax, allegedly being charged for violating a transport alcohol beverages and drive-through territory. A couple other things, a lot of them. We're going to take each one of them. I'm going to display on the screen exactly what the things were. And I think you'll agree with me. It's all a bunch of crap. That's all it was, a bunch of crap. Honey, is there anything that's...
Want me to make the picture bigger?
Yeah, make this picture bigger?
No, you.
Can I make it bigger?
Never mind.
No, no help. But anyway, we are within 3 minutes. And let's look at some of the posts here that we have, if we've got anything. Because I haven't, I've been so talking about all this stuff that I haven't had a chance to. Hey, Wesley, are you going to do TV, radio ads? You're doing some radio for the mortgage. We need financial help, people. Please help us. MorganForSenate2020.com. And press the donate button. I've got it displayed here on the screen. Listen, they raise thousands and millions of dollars through people that they're protecting their interest. When you have someone who's trying to protect your interest, they don't give people like me money because they know I won't stand up and do cover up for them, that I'm going to protect you, the citizen that works every day, that deserves a break, that it's not, paying an arm and a leg for everything they try to do in this life and can never get ahead. Can never, ever get ahead. It is ridiculous what's being done to us as citizens, as the president says, that it's time to return our government back to the people. I'm trying to do that. And you see what's happened to me. You see what they did to me because they try to take an house. And that's what's so bad about it, is that these corrupt politicians have learned how to manipulate the Christian vote. Christians, God love them, they want to do what's right. And all somebody has to do is put something on there on the TV or whatever that says, this man did something corrupt or is immoral. They tried to do that with Trump. They tried to do it over and over and over with Trump. It won't stick on him. And they try to make so that the Christians will abandon him because the Christians are what's going to pull this country out of what we're in if they will just stand up and realize how they're being manipulated, because they are being manipulated. And they need to be more involved, and rather than just jump into a conclusion because that some liberal rag like the Courier Journal or Election Herald Leader says something, when they're liberals. The Election Herald Leader and the Courier Journal hasn't said anything about me at all, and none of the TV stations. You know why? Because they want Amy McGrath to win. But if McGrath can't have it, they'll settle for McConnell again. But God forbid, if you get a constitutionalist like me, they do not want someone who is going to stand up for what's right. And that's what you as citizens demand over and over. Every election, I've heard it over and over and over. Why is it every time we elect someone, they go up there and jump in bed with the ones that's already there and nothing changes. It's because you keep voting them in. And when you do vote somebody in, they go up there and they run into a wall like I did, and rather than fighting, they capitulate. And when they capitulate, because it's easier, to be honest with you, it's much easier to capitulate and say, okay, I'm here. I just want to keep my seat. Cut me in on the cash. It's real easy to do that. Don't worry about the people. Don't worry about who put you up here. When they sent you to try to help them to straighten it out, so they quit getting raped every day by their own government. And it's up to you. Go to morganforsenate2020.com and make a generous contribution to this campaign if you want help to fight these corrupt politicians. It's 10:02. I'm 2 minutes over. I want to thank you all so much. Is any kind of a question or anything that I've missed? Thank you all so much for having me tonight and listening to what I have to say. I hope you liked this broadcast. We are going to continue broadcasting just like we're doing here and laying out all the information, showing you everything, whether it's something to do with me or where it's Mitch McConnell's voting record, or it's something Mitch has done, or it's something about Elaine and the Red Chinese or whatever. But thank you all so much. And I will try to post another video before the end of the week about one of these issues. So thank you, and good night.